Guys, I don't think I'm accurately explaining how crazy that is. Today, I want to tell you about Josh Hader and why he's so good. How good, though? How good has he been? He's got a career 2.6, which is inflated, frankly. But he's already got 193 saves. But look at this, dude. 735 strikeouts in 400 innings. Ew.
Brother, ugh.
Okay, so he has not blown a save since April. Last 7 games, he's got a 0. Last 15, he's got a 1.7. This is a classic Josh Hader 15-game stretch. He has 2 losses somehow, but he's only given up 4 hits. 4 hits in 15 innings. I want to show you how consistent this MFer's been. There is 1 month where he's been trash, and he's been great ever since. He's a 4.2 in July and a 3.8 in August. So, like, this is because of that year a couple years ago when he was traded to San Diego. But outside of these months, look how good he is every other month. June, he's got a 1.3. May, he's got a 1.1. April and March, 2.2. September, October, 2.6. That's crazy, man. He's one of the most consistent closing pitchers that ever. Not just like in the current game, ever. And yeah, he throws really hard. Yeah, he's left-handed. Yeah, all of those things are part of it. But here's the biggest reason. The fact that he throws a unicorn fastball. Let's see if we can zoom in on this. That says sinker. Did you know that Josh Hader threw a sinker? Type 1 in the chat if you knew. Type 2 if you didn't. And don't lie, I'll know. What happened to a four-seam? He never threw one. He's never had a four-seam. This says he threw one once. But that was also a sinker. It just spun weird. He never threw a four-seam, as you can tell by this list of pitches that only has a four-seam 1 in his career. So let me explain this to you. And this was something we discovered. And to be honest, this is a theory. But look at this spin. Look how this thing is spinning, right? Okay, so let me show you what you're trying to get. When you're trying to get, so Josh Hader has ride. He throws a riding sinker. Wrap your head around that. So he throws a 2-seam grip that carries. That doesn't make physical sense. Like just on its face, you'd be like, how? How do you do that? So when you're trying to get ride, you throw a 4-seam because when you get spin with the laces this way, it works like a water wheel. When you catch air spinning this way, you can catch air underneath it. What you're trying to do is you're trying to pull, you're trying to get this to be as efficient as possible. Efficiently means it doesn't wobble like this, it just goes perfectly straight. He throws the exact opposite. So he throws a 2-seam that wobbles like crazy. It's wobbling like this. Like look, if this weren't wobbling, those 2 seams you see right there, they would be straight split through this axis right here. It would be split perfectly and it would be spinning like perfectly backspun like that, but it's wobbling. So when it wobbles, it's going like this. Which, first of all, I don't even know. Like, I'm trying to think. He's got to be offset a little bit, right? And get it. Yeah, so that's how you're doing it. So it's like, it has a supinated spin. So it's spinning like a cutter with a 2-seam grip. I know, just stay with me here. This is really, really hard to like envision. But what I want you to do is think about it this way. You have the horseshoe on this side that's wobbling. Like basically it's going whoop, whoop. Like the horseshoe on the side of the ball is pointing that way, that way, that way, that way, that way, that way, that way. On both sides. So he has a horseshoe on both sides of the ball that is wobbling, creating these big circles on the sides of the ball. So what he has found is the perfect spin wobble so that the pockets of air on both sides of the ball are pushing on the ball at almost the same pressure, which is keeping it straight. Which makes, guys, I don't think I'm accurately explaining how crazy that is. Because if you're off a little bit, it's going to take off one way or the other. So there's something uniquely about how he releases the ball that allows him to do this, and no one else has been able to do it. Like nobody. It's such a bad sinker that it's a great 4-seam. That is the concept of seam shifted wake. Yes. When I threw my changeup, I started to throw it like this, and then I would like kind of offset it so it would spin like this, right? And spin that way. But on the back side of the ball was this big horseshoe that would wobble a little bit. So when the horseshoe wobbles, and this spot was a little bit bigger than this spot on this side, the air pocket would be heavier here, and it would make it fade that way. Based on the spin, it's supposed to cut. But because of the air on this side pushing the ball, it actually goes the opposite. So a hitter sees a pitch that's supposed to go that way, and it ends up going that way, almost the exact same amount. So the same thing here. He's throwing it. It's wobbling a ton. Everyone assumes it's going to run, and it just stays. And it's 98. You need some video to show us. So let's just go random video. So that's a 2-seam. He's gripping that thing with a 2-seam. Like what? Let's try it again. 2-seam grip. Are his fingers touching? Let's see. No? No, they're not. But he is inside. So, like, it's really close, right? He's, like, really close. But he's got big hands. By the way, Josh Hader he's got really big hands. So, also, let's break this down, too. See what his arm slot is? Okay, first of all, he's way across his body. Not way, but he's about 8 inches across his body, right? So, he's across his body. So, he already stepped from here to here. So, he's already stepped away from the right-handed hitter. So, that is one thing that is deceptive first. Then he goes way out here, kind of like Sale, right? He's way out, kind of low. He's below 45 degrees. But then, instead of his hand being like this, like a sidearmer would, it's like this, right? So he's low, which only makes guys think it's going to run even more. Think Ryan Walker. Ryan Walker throws the sinker. His run's back a lot. Hader's the left-handed version, and they think his fastball is going to move that way. It doesn't. So then he gets behind the ball somehow, and then he's outside of it, so it's supinated a little bit. And then it seam shifts. Basically, a hitter's like, oh, this does this, and this usually does this. And every point, from his delivery to his release to the ball flight to where it ends up, is all different than what everyone else does. And that's why he's so effective. It's like Mariano Rivera's cutter, right? Nobody, even Kenley Jensen, he's the closest, but nobody can make the ball move like him, because it was just, he had a natural talent for throwing that cutter. Halladay could, not even Halladay. Halladay couldn't either. Halladay did not have his cutter. He threw the same grip, but Halladay's cutter did not ride. It was really good. It was like Kenley's. Like, they all have like 12 inches of carry at the most. Mo's was 15 plus carry every time. Let me go down here. I'll show you the difference. So inches of break, guys. See this inches of break? Neutral is 5 inches. This is a raw number. So 5 inches of break means it runs. So 5 means it was perfectly straight. Basically, it ended where it started, and the 5 inches is the average on like how forces affect it. So 5 means to a hitter, it looks perfectly straight. So if it's higher than that, it means it runs a little bit. If it's lower, that means it cuts a little bit. So his run's about 2 inches, which is normal. That's a 4-seam run. Mine was like 6.5 to 8. It was about that too. So Mo's hands were like, he could touch his fingers around the ball almost, which is crazy. He had banana fingers, and he would throw underneath the ball like this, which then kept it up a little bit longer, and no one else, and Kenley's slots higher. So like, Mo's was lower, Kenley's is too high to do that. So he gets like the depth, but in terms of the consistency of their cut, it's very similar. They have the close to the same horizontal, but he had the most vertical by far, and it has for a long time. Here's another theory that, is this backed up by science at all? No, but is it something just asking questions? Okay, so do you guys see my index finger and my middle finger are pretty close to the same height, which allows me to create more of a consistent, like the ball stays with, like I can keep both my fingers on the ball longer, right? A lot of guys have a finger that's like a whole centimeter or longer, so the middle finger's way longer. Mariano Rivera's one of those. So when I would release a 4-seam, I'd be here, right? So this would be the last finger on, but like it'd be right towards the end. Then there's guys that are like this, where this finger's the last one on for an extra 5 milliseconds, which allows them to cut the ball more. So guys with longer middle fingers tend to cut the ball, tend to be able to throw sliders better, like naturally. And what I've realized is most people are one or the other. Now, would this take a long study? Yeah, to be honest, it would be really cool to go into a minor league or go into big league spring trainings and then test everyone's finger length and just be like, which one are you? Which one are you? And then that's it. That's all we do. And then we just see, and then we go look at everyone's movement and see if there's any correlation. Pitching staff isn't measuring finger length. No, this hasn't happened yet. It will eventually. But yeah, this is how this stuff happens. People like me bring it up, and then they look into it. They can both be good. It's just like when you're thinking about learning a new pitch, or maybe what's naturally easier for you to pick up, like guys with longer middle fingers also struggled because their ring finger, it'd be way longer than their ring finger as well. So changeups were hard. Sometimes they throw way more breaking balls. But anyway, Josh Hader. Josh Hader throws a unicorn. Okay, so that was the first thing on him. And then the second thing he did this year, Mike Petriello was telling me about how Josh Hader tried to make his slider smaller and throw it harder so it looked like his fastball more. Or he wanted a tighter slider. It's a weird spin. It's a little bit of a cement mixer. He's got the seam shift kind of on the back, right? Which is weird. It adds more depth. But he's throwing it harder. He's throwing it about 3 miles an hour harder than his other one. The reason he wants to do that is because it's his wrinkle pitch. The other one was easily identified and also adjusted to better. So basically, guys saw the hump earlier. They were able to like foul it off more. I was having the same problem 22. And then I tried to make my slider harder and smaller so that it looked like my fastball longer and made my fastball better. He throws 72% fastballs. Like, he's not trying to strike people out with the slider. Slider's just another pitch that he wants people to have to think about. And if it's harder and it tunnels better, then it's a better version of that. But it definitely is a wrinkle. But he really just wants to get you with his fastball. Now, in an era where most people like, oh, I want a sweeper, I want something big and that breaks really, really well in a vacuum. Maybe you don't want that. So if we go look, like his slider, it's below average on all metrics, especially a horizontal break. It goes 85% less horizontal. This doesn't break at all. This is tiny, but it does drop a little bit. Less than average, but it drops. More depth. So he changed this last year. See, you can see 84 on average, 83. Now it's 85.7. He changed it at the end of last year, and now he's throwing it all year this year. It's just a wrinkle pitch. And then he'll mix in a changeup every once in a while just to be cheeky. But look at this drops. 10.5. That's one of the best rides in the league. And he throws a sinker. It says it's negative 50% because it says it's a sinker. But if this was classified as a four seam, he would be top 2% in the league. But he's not going for nastiness. He's going for relation to his sinker. And that has made him well. So, like, we're always like, oh, you want guys with all the red numbers on here. Do you see much red for Josh Hader? Do you guys see any red? If he compared this to other four seams, he would have one of the best ones. This would be bright red. But the other two wouldn't. But he's one of the best relievers, if not the best closer in the major leagues right now, with no pitches that are elite compared to other pitches. So he tightened his slider up, and he throws a unicorn of a fastball. And that's why I think that there's no end in sight for how effective Josh Hader is going to be moving forward.